And welcome to the Citizen Report. I'm Jonathan Shannon, and thank you for joining me tonight. As always, this newscast is real, in-depth American. Thank you so much for joining me. I decided to do this live tonight. Normally, when I do this program, I tape it through Zoom, and then I basically render it out with some, you know, cut and dry graphics, things like that. But just to be honest with you, I am kind of under the weather today. Haven't This hadn't been a good day for me, so I'm just decided I'm going to do it live instead of on pre-tape it. I'm going to do it live instead. So if I appear to be off my game tonight, my apologies for that. But I felt like, given the current events, I felt like I needed to come on tonight. So I don't know what's happened in the last couple hours, but at last I've heard, in Israel, some 700 plus missiles have been launched at the country. It really doesn't matter what people may think about Israel. At the end of the day, we need to be in prayer, and I say that partly because there are many Christians that live there. I know one who lives there. Without going too much into detail, I will just say she's actually just done the new voiceover for the Citizen Report that will be debuting in the coming months. So we need to really be in prayer right now for Israel. I also just want to say we really need to be in prayer for the pastor in Canada that was arrested for, as best as I understand, he basically didn't adhere to the tyrannical COVID. I shouldn't have said that. The certain restrictions, shall we say. I have to be careful what keywords I use. I'm sure you understand why. So, at any rate, we need to be in prayer for him as well, because I will just tell you, Christian persecution is reaching an all-time high. And those that don't, there are people that act like that's not a real thing. And I'm here to tell you that Christian persecution is very real. If you remember a few years ago, a certain caliphate, I'm afraid to even refer to them by name, but they beheaded some Christians as well. So if you think that Christians aren't being persecuted, you're mistaken. Christians are being persecuted. And it's only going to make matters worse if people continue to be complacent. So, anyways, I've got a few things to share with you tonight, and I'm keeping close tabs on Israel. I will just tell you as well that it's my understanding that they have taken out a commander of Hamas, and CBS News, of all mainstream media outlets, has decided to completely turn it inside out and say that Israel was somehow at fault when Israel was attacked. And again, it does not matter what people think about the country. They have a right to defend themselves if they come under attack, as does any sovereign country. And for that, Israel is attacking them. Or I should say, Israel is retaliating against them, I should say, because they came under attack. I don't know if it. I know that the last major conflict in Israel was in 2014, I think. I just vaguely remember certain things about that. But I will tell you, I'm only 24 years old, so I obviously wasn't alive when the 1967 war and all that stuff. But as best as I can remember, this is the worst I've ever seen. Now, of course, I'm having to rely upon hand-me-down information, but it's just we are really at a tipping point, I think. We are really on the edge of war, dare I say, and I'm not one to fearmonger, and trust me, if you're hearing me say that, then I actually believe that to be true. I don't say that to trouble you, though, because, it is written, let not your heart be troubled. And so even when we see these things happen, we're supposed to not let our heart be troubled. So we need to remember that. But just understand that we are truly living in biblical times. And I think that certain things are happening right now because, for one, the enemy knows his time is very short. And also, I will also tell you that we see these things happening because I believe there is an attempt to distract um, certain things in a certain state out west, shall we say? Um, Phoenix, Maricopa County, Arizona, and then here stateside, back here stateside, we have also the gas pipeline. I don't know if you've been out to the gas station today or last night, but it's been an absolute clown show. And I filled up my tank yesterday. I'm curious to see if anyone else has had a similar experience, but I ended up having to pay for the top tier gas. I have a 2001 car, and those kind of cars just don't, there's just no advantage to using those things. But I had no choice because the first two tier levels of gas were completely out. This was at Harris Teeter, by the way. And I made the mistake of going there. And I will tell you that after I bought my gas, I left and I pulled over, and I was just hearing people blowing their horns at each other. I mean, it was absolutely, positively ridiculous. So what that also tells me is that people still turn on the TV. They see the first thing that's in front of them. They don't discern. They don't think critically. They just assume that what they see is actually happening. And they just freak out. They freak out. And I will just remind my audience as well. This just popped into my head. Hey, Saving Liberty 1776. I know who you are. Hey, Cameron, nice to see you. Thanks for tuning in. But I'll just remind my audience, and I just had this pop in my head that that they, under Obama, they literally made it legal to promulgate propaganda in this country. It used to be that a certain letter agency, shall we say, used to put out propaganda, just, at least officially, just on in foreign countries. Of course, we have Voice of America, and I think that's pretty safe to say that's a propaganda outlet as well. But now it's not just happening, it's actually considered to be legal in this country, to have propaganda. So when you see stuff on TV and they're just maligning the truth, and it's so obvious that they are, just remember they actually are protected legally. And let me tell you something, that was done by design, because Obama knew exactly what he was doing. And this is what we're up against. We're up against a big machine, the mainstream media. And they can literally, like during Trump's presidency, for example, they were making all kinds of stuff up about Trump, and it just turned out to be completely fake, phony, and false. That they were defaming his character, and he would go back and sue them. And also too, his name slips my mind, but the high school student that was basically being harassed by someone beating a drum and acting like acting like an insane person, just beating the drum. And he just stood there, blank face. And for that, the mainstream media absolutely tried to character assassinate him. And he ended up suing. I think his attorney sued CNN, and I believe it was $250 million. So if for those that think that propaganda isn't happening, it very much is. And in cases like that, they're proving in court that there's literally propaganda, not just propaganda, but proving propaganda, and also proving defamation of character. So, anyways, I thought that I just think it's very interesting what times we live in, because it just points out that I mean, some days I just want to call it the Twilight Zone. That's all I can really say. And like going back to the gas stuff, I mean, I live in Gastonia, North Carolina, and here gas prices are just shooting out the roof. Thanks, Biden, for that, by the way. And the mainstream media, if you notice, they're not even asking hard questions. All they're doing is they're like, oh, well, the gas, too bad. The gas pipeline, the Colonial Pipeline, came under cyber attack. Oh, and it was the Russians, by the way. how do you know it was the Russians? I mean, it's like, how do you know immediately that this is how you know it's propaganda? They just immediately know that who did it, because when you're actually doing a real investigation, you don't have leaks, you don't have people saying, "Oh, this is the inside scoop." No, you conduct an investigation, and then when you're ready to indict, that's when you're supposed to only then hear the first clue that there was even an investigation going on. So that's how I know that there's something amiss about this, shall we say. I'm not going to go into depth about that here because, YouTube doesn't like certain topics, because I'll just remind my audience that one of my videos was pulled down not that long ago, so I have to be even more careful than I was before. But my point being is that I do think that they're trying to destabilize things, and of course the mainstream media, they're not going to tell you or remind you that it was Biden that shut down the Keystone Pipeline, and they will try to sweep that under the rug because that's not politically helpful to them, because I guarantee you. And I truly believe this. If Trump were in office and this had actually happened, he would have gone around and found a way of getting gas from somewhere. Biden is so clueless; he doesn't even know how to tie his own shoelace. He's probably so compromised and so controlled by other people. He probably has other people do it for him because he literally doesn't even own himself. If that makes any sense. So, anyways. I want to bring to your attention, I'll just mention this in passing, that there are certain protests, I guess I'll call it, in New York, in Washington, D.C., in Portland, and in Minneapolis. All of these are pro-Palestinian. Now, it makes me wonder why are we all of a sudden seeing pro-Palestinian marches, protests? I don't really know. Is it an attempt to kick off civil war in this country? Because in one case, let me pull it up here, make sure I'm getting this right. In New York, they also had pro-Israeli crowds there, and the pro-Israeli and pro-Palestinian crowd were clashing in New York. This is according to Disclose.tv on Twitter, and basically, I think that the deep state is trying to make the most of this. They're trying to destabilize things. And let me back up for a second and explain my reasoning. Right now we're having, I have to be careful what words I use, but a certain check, if you will, they're checking certain things out in Arizona right now. They don't want us focusing on that. I think they're trying to take our eyes off the ball. Now, I am not in any way belittling what's going on in Israel. That's horrific. I my heart goes out to them. It's just a really terrible thing what's going on. But you have to understand that there are multiple agendas playing out at the same time, and I think that I guess I can say this: Iran, they are deep state controlled. And you'll remember from the Obama administration that they sent over literally cash on a jet to Iran. So that regime in Iran is literally that. There's other examples, but that's the one that comes to mind right away. Iran is a deep state installation, shall we say. It's meant to destabilize the Middle East. And I think that in due course, I have to, I feel like I have a responsibility to not over speculate things, because, if the wrong person sees this, then it'll have a negative effect. But I do think it might be safe I do think it might be safe for me to say at this point that Israel is going to retaliate. I think they'll know exactly, they'll figure out exactly who this traces back to, because, yes, you got Hamas, but there's the hidden enemy behind that, is what I'm trying to say. And the deep state, we like to think that's just the Democrat Party, the rhinos in this country. Well, you have to understand the deep state is global. It is in just about every country on the face of the earth. Well, pretty much, yeah, every country. Every country has one, and they all tie in together. And I think that they are trying to destabilize things. I think they know what's coming, shall we say, about Arizona. I think they're trying to accelerate their plan because what Trump did, and I know it sounds like, and I know it may seem like I'm kind of jumping back and forth, but I'm trying to explain my logic to make sure everyone understands why I say certain things. But you have to understand there was a 16-year plan to destroy America. Literally. Obama was supposed to start the first 8 years. Hillary was supposed to be the closer, the final 8 years. There was supposed to be a big war. The fiat money system was supposed to collapse, and we were supposed to go under, our Constitution was supposed to be dissolved per their plan. That was thwarted, I do believe, by the grace of God when Trump came into office. Is that now they still the deep state still try to push their agenda, yes, but a lot of that was thwarted. And now with Trump out of the office, but I'm trying to figure out how to say this without triggering algorithms, but for now, with him out of the picture, now the optics are all on Biden. Biden, with their first 8 years having been largely rolled back, they're having to accelerate and speed up their 16-year plan. And now the people are being shocked awake. People are going like, well, wait a second. Because they're seeing him trying to implement the Green New Deal. He's being completely incoherent. And, all his handlers, they're kind of being forced out into the open because you're seeing people just appear out of nowhere and they're saying things that are just make no sense. And it's like Kamala Harris, she says that she's going to be the border czar. As I understand, she hadn't even been to the border since she was appointed that, I guess. And I could be wrong on that, but I don't know of a time that she has been to the border since she became the border czar. And I think that a lot of things are being allowed to play out right now. And I really do think that that this is meant to wake people up. And I will tell you, I have seen people ask me questions I never thought I would get. I had a friend text me, a childhood friend text me, maybe about, let's see, well, definitely more than a week ago, more than a week ago. And he was asking me about, I can't say the word, but this thing. He actually had already gotten it, but he was kind of worried about it, and he was asking me about it. So this is the thing. A lot of things, I'm not saying for sure, but I really just don't believe that he would even have asked me. So I think that the level of awakening is increasing in America. So I think that when people say that this country is going off a cliff and all this stuff, yes and no. America is in trouble, yes. But I do believe, and I'll explain one of the reasons why I say this in a moment. But I do believe that God is working behind the scenes because He knows the remnant in this country are in prayer. The remnant in this country, we're standing in the gap, and the remnant is saying, we do not go along with this, with what Biden is trying to do. And I'll bring her up now. Amanda Grace. I don't know if any of y'all watch her on YouTube. You need to go watch her stuff. I think her YouTube channel is called Ark of Grace Ministries. And she talks about this, about how God is, referring to this country as the nation of the eagle, excuse me, nation of the eagle, that God is going to rescue this country. And I truly believe that. So if that's the case, we have to be discerning, yes, but assuming that's the case, we're seeing a lot of these things happening, as I said, to wake people up. But I think at the same time, it's meant to wake people up in a political sense, but it's also meant to wake people up in a spiritual sense. Because the only way America is going to get out of this is through God, period. And I think that the enemy, like I said earlier, the enemy knows his time is short, and he's going into overdrive. He's trying to, through Biden, through these other people, because remember, it's a spiritual war. We wrestle not with flesh and blood, but with principalities. The verse only comes to mind partially, but my point being is that Biden, he's the front, he's like the puppet, but there's a whole spiritual component behind that. And I think that people are realizing this, and they're waking up to that as well. There's a lot of people still asleep, but I just want people to understand. I'm not saying this to make people complacent and assume that everything's just going to be all right and there's nothing to do. No, this is the time to really be putting true information out there, because what is YouTube trying to do? They're trying to take down everything they disagree with at this point. I mean, they're just indiscriminately removing everybody, complete disregard for the Constitution and people's rights. And I think that they're panicking. They're panicking that we have these other platforms coming online. And that's what I'm saying. It's very important right now for people to become engaged and get in this fight. I didn't feel like doing this show tonight, but I came on anyway because I felt it was that important. And let me tell you something. Everybody watching this show needs to go start their own show. And I mean that literally. I don't care if people only get 5 views. And I do think that a lot of these views are throttled down, that they kind of hide the true counts in some cases. But in particular, if just 5 people per channel watch a certain person talking about the truth, and then you have another 5 people on another channel, well, you start to put all this together, and you realize you got a lot more. Yes, you have 5 here and 5 there and things like that, but you put it all together, and you've got a formidable opposition to the mainstream media, because the mainstream media, they really are the enemy of the people. They get their funding from above, and they take orders from above. I explained this in a previous video. They literally have scripts. This is what a lot of people don't understand. They have scripts that are sent down from the AP, CNN, and that should tell you everything you need to know right there, that they're even using CNN. And they're basically, they feed it into the teleprompter, and they literally read it. If you watch montages, they're literally saying the same thing, and even with similar mannerisms, shall we say. I mean, it's absolutely insane. We must keep spreading the truth. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when they start censoring, that's when you know you're over the target, and that's when you need to double down, because they don't like that. And I'll say this, if somebody's never being censored, then I have to wonder what's going on, because they're censoring everybody that's actually spreading truth, just about. There are exceptions, yes. Some people can find a way to stay under the radar, but in my case, I've been largely able to stay under the radar, partially because my subscriber count is so low. And that's actually a good thing in a way, because that allows, like I said, me to stay under the radar and just keep going in the longer run, while other people get, unfortunately shut down or suspended, and then they have to go start up new channels. Well, in my case, my channel's been around since 2017. I've been doing this show as a college podcast since 2018, relaunch in 2019. And, I'm still here. So I don't know how much longer they'll let me be here, though. But I am planning to move to Rumble for most new episodes at some point. I'm not sure yet. I'll probably still do live shows on here, by the way. And then just move the recording over to Rumble or something like that once I actually do that. But at any rate, I want to get to something that's been on my mind since yesterday that I really wanted to bring to y'all's attention. I was going to talk about this last night, but I just ran out of time, and it just didn't work out. As I said earlier, I mentioned Amanda Grace, Ark of Grace Ministries. She mentions about the horse at the Kentucky Derby. Now, some of y'all may just think this is a little woo-woo. Okay, whatever. Everyone is free to have their own opinion. But I think this is really quite interesting. So she talks about the horse that won the race in the Kentucky Derby. I think it's called Medina Spirit. Now, at first, that may seem completely unrelated to everything, but I want to point out a few things that I think it's kind of strange. So I got pulled up here. Now, unfortunately, I'm just doing a straight stream to YouTube, so I'm not really able to share my screen in the way I'm doing this. So you have to just take it by faith of what I'm reading on here. I'm going to go to Wikipedia. If you want to follow along with me, I'll give everyone just a second to go over to Wikipedia and go to the Medina Spirit Wikipedia page, and scroll down to where the subhead reads Kentucky Derby. Now, the Kentucky Derby, those that don't know, the Kentucky Derby was just held back at the first of the month. Now, Medina Spirit, just to be perfectly clear, is a horse, okay? Now, there's some really strange things that are paralleling this parallels with what we saw happen in November and continue to see happen. And all this will start to make sense in a moment. Just stay with me here. So let's see. Let me make sure I'm going to read the right thing. Okay, there we go. I'm going to just read this paragraph. Now, I'll summarize it better in a second. I'm just going to read this to you right now. The 2021 Kentucky Derby, held on May 1 at Churchill Downs, attracted a deep field of 19. The favorite was the undefeated champion Essential Quality, who had won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and Bluegrass Stakes. Other highly regarded contenders included Rock Your World Santa Anita Derby, Known Agenda Florida Derby, Hot Rod Charlie Louisiana Derby, and Mandoulin Risen Star Stakes. Medina Spirit was largely overlooked at odds of 12-1. Now, I'll just tell you that Medina Spirit, the horse, tested positive for a drug. I mean, get it up here. It's a, let's see here. The anti-inflammatory steroid betaminazone. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Betamethasone, something like that. So in Kentucky, betamethasone is classified as a Class C drug that is permitted for therapeutic use in horses, but it requires a 14-day withdrawal time. So in other words, the horse had too much of this in his system. And there's an investigation going on, if this horse is actually determined to be actually have, that they conclude that this was the case, the horse will be disqualified. And then it will go to what was previously believed to be the second place horse, and that will become the winner of the 2021 Kentucky Derby. Now, this may still seem like a random thing, but let me explain to you a couple of things. I'm actually also going to play something from Amanda Grace's video in a moment. I'll have to just kind of hold the phone up like this to my microphone. Hopefully it comes through okay. But let me read to you what Medina means. Now, Medina, the origin of the word is in Arabic, and it means town. Now, think back to 2017. Trump went over to Saudi Arabia, obviously an Arabic country, right? And it's been widely believed, and I believe this too, that that they were flushing out the deep state in that country. Now, Medina is the name of the second holiest city in Islam in Saudi Arabia. So it's starting to have some strange parallels, if that makes any sense. But I'm going to tie this all together by playing something from Amanda Grace. Now, if y'all will bear with me for 1 second, I'm going to send a quick text to someone that just texted me. But I'll play this for you in just 1 second. This is live. I apologize. And by the way, for those that are watching, definitely feel free to chime in. I know we have to be kind of careful now with the algorithms and such, but definitely let me know in real time what you think about the things I'm talking about. Because does any of this resonate? Because I think it's fascinating personally. But hold on 1 second. My apologies again. I will play this for you in 1 second. Okay. All right. That message has now been sent. So let me now switch over to YouTube on the app here. And I'm going to play for you something that I think you're going to find really interesting. Again, this is Amanda Gray. She talks about Medina spirit. And basically what she's getting at is a prophetic meaning that ties into all of this. Now, I'm going to play this for you. And if y'all think this is a little too woo-woo, that's your right. Just hear me out because I think it's going to be a compelling argument. I really do. So, all right. Thanks for bearing with me here. Now I'm going to start playing this, and I'm not sure how much I'm going to play of this. Just a few moments, a few minutes maybe. Just enough so you kind of get the gist of what she's getting at because she explains it a lot better than I could. So let's pick it up from about the 40-minute mark. This is from Amanda Grace Talks, Prophecy, Temple Mount, an Explosive June, Medina Spirit. That's the name of the video. So let's pick it up from about the 40-minute mark in case you want to go refer to that yourself later. Certainly do so. Okay, here we go.
So why do I think the horse named Medina Spirit is so important? This doesn't happen every year, but on pivotal tipping point years in the country, this seems to happen. You know why? Because principalities want to invade every area of life when they want to try to take over. This is why. I'm going to take you back to 2015 for a minute. Obama was coming to the end of his second term. The Triple Crown that year, which is the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont Stakes, which is in Long Island, there was a horse by the name of American Pharoah. American Pharoah, who was going for the Triple Crown, who actually won the Triple Crown. And me and Barbara, my godmother, got on the phone, who mentored me in the prophetic, and we said, this is the spirit trying to take over this country. American Pharoah. Obama is going for the Triple Crown.
I'll pick that back up in just 1 second. Let me clarify, and I'm not sure if she's going to do it here. I watched this yesterday, but let me clarify what she's basically getting at here as best as I can explain. When you have, and again, all this goes back to the spiritual realm, and I know a lot of people may not believe that. That's your right to think that. I personally tend to believe that, as she does, that when the spiritual realm, it'll basically seep in, if that makes any sense. It will seep in, and you see strange occurrences like this, where you see things like American Pharoah, and then like this year, Medina Spirit. So let me pick it back up. I just thought I'd add that comment in as we're listening to this.
He's going to try to put a puppet in there and run a third term from behind the scenes. And we realize this from this horse, because when a principality goes to take over, you're going to see it seep in to the most unexpected of areas, okay? Fast forward now, because the country was at a tipping point. An outsider named Donald Trump comes and wins big in the election and upsets the Triple Crown, okay? Now, fast forward to this year. Fast forward.
Now she's going to get into the Medina Spirit, the horse that won the Kentucky Derby, but potentially at least did so by I'm afraid to even use the word because I'm afraid the algorithms are going to pick up on it. But basically, this horse basically used drugs that he wasn't supposed to use to get through this Derby and win the Derby. So strange parallels. And as you're hearing this, compare this to what happened in November.
This year. So this year, I happened to notice there's a horse whose name was or is Medina Spirit. What happened with this horse and why is it prophetic for what's going on in the country right now? What can this horse, Medina Spirit, teach us about the election and what's coming?
Let me pause it one more time. By the way, if I don't see any comments regarding the audio, I assume that you can hear it just fine. If you're having trouble hearing it this way, please let me know. But otherwise, I'm going to assume that you can hear it all right, okay?
I'm going to read to you the news article. In a news conference Sunday morning, Baffert, who's the trainer, he's one of the best trainers actually in horse racing, said the horse tested positive for 21 picograms of betamethasone, 11 picograms above the legal limit in Kentucky racing. Shortly afterward, Churchill Downs, which hosts the Derby, announced his suspension. Failure to comply with the rules and medication protocol jeopardizes the safety of the horses and the jockeys. It also gives the horse an unfair advantage over other horses because if it has a bigger amount of anti-inflammatory in its system, it can run faster and not feel pain. Okay? Baffert said the drug test results were disturbing and the biggest gut punch in racing for something I didn't do. So he's claiming he didn't do it. He said he didn't know why Medina Spirit would have tested positive for the drug, which is an anti-inflammatory. He said that the incident was a complete injustice and that he feels that he was wronged. Now,
here comes a good
what
part.
happens from here? If the findings are upheld, Medina Spirit, so they're doing another investigation, we'll get to that. The findings are upheld, Medina Spirit's results in the Kentucky Derby will be invalidated. His win will be invalidated. And Mandaloun will be declared the winner, who was second. Churchill Downs said of the horse that was the runner-up, it wouldn't comment and that it would, quote, trust the process. This is very suspect. Okay. So now they're doing an investigation. And if it comes back that they feel there was foul play with this horse, the horse is going to be banned from the Preakness and banned and stopped from running. It's looking into the test results. The Kentucky Horse Racing Commission is looking into the test results. It isn't Baffert's first drug testing scandal. Medina Spirit is his fifth horse to have failed a drug test in the past year.
That's interesting.
Okay. Now, and then there was a quote, there is a problem in racing, but it's not Bob Baffert. So now, why is this important to what's going on in the country? You're probably thinking, where the heck is she going with this?
See, I want to stop it there too for just a second. Let me say, you're going to be glad you've listened through this. I know it's a slow build up and all that stuff, but trust me, you're going to be glad you heard this because this is a very fascinating connection to Trump, shall we say, to Trump and Biden, shall we say. Keep that in the back of your mind with where we are now with Biden and with Trump. So listen to this because this is going to get really interesting.
Okay. Medina Spirit. The country is at a tipping point. It is at a pivotal year. Medina is a city in western Saudi Arabia, population 1.1 million. Medina is Arabic for city. So Medina spirit is an Arabic spirit.
That is interesting.
Who's pulling the strings behind Joe? And the horse named this wins the Kentucky Derby, the first leg of the Triple Crown. The horse was not a favorite. Listen to what I'm about to say. Was not a favorite to win, but won. Was not favored to win. No one thought this horse was going to win.
Right.
And then it begins to unravel because the horse tests positive for something that gave it an unfair advantage, which means most likely the race was fixed. There was an unfair legal advantage above. Excuse me. Hi, bud. His competitors. I never sneeze on camera. Okay. So the horse Medina Spirit, Arabic in nature, has an unfair advantage in a race he is not slated to win. Does this sound familiar yet?
Yes, it does.
Does this sound familiar of what we're seeing happen in the country? Does this sound familiar?
Yes, it does.
For the election. And now there's an investigation into the cheating.
Yep.
Now there's an investigation into the cheating for a horse named Medina Spirit, Arabic Spirit, that was never slated to win, that had an unfair fixed advantage from the beginning, that caused it to win above a horse that was favored to win. Sounds very familiar. Now, this happened the year with American Pharoah, too. This happened the years the country is at a crucial tipping point. So this happens over the weekend, Arabic Spirit, and what happens at the Temple Mount today in Israel? Palestinian rioters set off fireworks in the mosque. It causes a fire. A tree catches fire too close to the western wall. After a horse in America, because America and Israel are, one goes, the other goes. You know what I mean? Arabic Spirit gains an unfair advantage that now causes an investigation.
Okay. I'm going to stop it right there. I think I allowed it to go on long enough. Please go watch that video. If you have trouble finding it, reach out to me, and however you choose to reach out to me, and I'll be sure to send you the link to that video. I think it's very interesting because we have to understand all this, again, goes back to the spiritual realm, because Biden and all of them, we have literally a force of evil in there right now. That's what it really boils down to. Again, we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but with principalities. So think about that. Think about Biden. Think about everything that's behind him, because he doesn't even know where he is half the time. That's the thing. There's a whole component behind him that is trying to push in socialism, trying to bring in communism, trying to bring in murder of unborn and born babies. And now we see this in what she believes in the prophetic, where you have a horse, Medina Spirit. You can't make this up. Get an unfair advantage at the Kentucky Derby. Now there's an investigation. If the investigation is upheld, the second place horse becomes the first place horse, because the first place horse was, not really first place under their rules. So I'm telling you, folks, there's something to this. So, I just think it's very interesting. I had to share that on here because it just, when I heard this, I was in my car driving, listening to this, and I'm telling you, I was just like, wow, this is this is some really interesting stuff. So I hope that that was a blessing to my audience. So, I will just say, I guess I'm getting to the close close to the close of my broadcast, but I just want to say that I am keeping tabs on the situation in Israel. I've said at the beginning that I do have a contact in Israel that I can reach out to and try to get some general kind of a what's going on from that point of view. The mainstream media, and I mentioned this earlier, the CNN, or excuse me, not CNN. CNN deserves all the blame that they deserve. But I mean, even in this case, this was actually CBS. So CBS News put out a propaganda hit piece on Israel. And I'll read it to you what they literally say. This is by Elizabeth Palmer on May 10. It reads, Israel strikes Gaza. Hamas fires rockets after hundreds of Palestinians wounded in clashes. I mean, I'm not going to even bother reading the article. You can go look this up yourself. But it just points out the utter dishonesty, the utter contempt the mainstream media has. They're not journalists. These are not journalists. These are pure propagandists. And I think that's something that people really need to understand. They are not real journalists. Real journalists will present information, even if it is, they're going to just present information. They not propagandize. That's propaganda because we know what really happened. In fact, I'll just bring to you, I'll pull this up real quick since I'm on here. I'll have to jump on my Facebook profile real quick. Let me scroll down just a bit. Bear with me 1 second. This is a map. I don't know if you can see this or not. Let me pull. That's Israel. All of those dots you see, all those pinpoints you see on your screen right now, as of 7 hours ago, that in the previous 30 minutes, as of 7 hours ago, that was all the places that where sirens were activated, because that was how much stuff was being sent over to Israel. Let me show it to you one more time. Now, notice where it is and where it's not. The country of Israel, here on your screen right here, and I apologize, I know this is low tech, but over here is the West Bank. Israel is being attacked. And it literally says the IDF, Israel Defense Forces, this is what it reads. Bear with me here. Facebook has decided to be a little jumpy with me. Well, I'll just tell you what I know from memory. They said Israel is under attack. They literally said that. So it just points out the utter dishonesty in the mainstream media with CBS News, all of them. This is why I say you cannot get your news on TV. This is why do you see, and this ties back with what I said earlier about the gas pumps. When you look at people at their fear, they're just absolutely in fear of everything. I mean, they go around doing this, not because they're forced to, but it's like tonight, I went to get my dinner. I got something to eat at a little takeout place down in Lake Wylie, South Carolina. It's only a few miles from here. Down there is no mask. I have to be careful what words I use. There's no this mandate. And yet everybody in there had one of these on except me. Now, I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying this just points out, even when people don't have to, they still do it. Why? Because they turn on TV and they act like the world's coming to an end. Well, I'm sorry. I'm here to tell you it's not. The TV news, I go back to what I said earlier. Under the Obama administration, propaganda was literally made legal domestically. That means every single thing you hear on TV or other mass media form is subject to being propaganda. And if And if it is propaganda, it is perfectly legal. Doesn't make it morally right, but it's legal as of right now. So, anyways, I'm just looking through here real quick before I sign off. I'm just going to see if there's anything else I need to mention. My apologies. I know this is kind of low tech, and I told you at the beginning of the show I'm a little off my game tonight, but I felt like it was important to come on tonight and talk with you because there's a lot of important things happening right now. Well, let me show you this picture. I don't know when this was taken. I don't know who took this. Someone is literally filling up big bins or whatever you call it, bottles of gas. I don't know if it was taken in the last day or two or where or how or whatever, but this just points out the mentality. And the thing I've noticed is that some of the most fearful people are those that only watch CNN, who only watch TV. And if you turn off the TV, I think once you turn it off and you stop, what's the word I'm looking for? Once you stop doing this or just, how about this? Go somewhere where you don't have to wear this. And then how quickly does it take for you to forget that all this stuff is even going on that they claim? So anyways, I can't really push it beyond that point because I've already said too many things that might trigger the algorithm. But anyways, it is what it is. I just want to remind you before I sign off tonight that you can find the Citizen Report on stinger.live, STINGER.live. You can come to the website, thecitizenreport.weebly.com, thecitizenreport.weebly.com, or the domain citizenreport.tv. There's no the in that one, just citizenreport.tv. Personally, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Gab. So anyways, I just want to remind you, you can get on my text message notification list to be notified of new episodes when they come out. I don't always send one out on every episode, but most I do. If I wasn't sure if I was going to do a show tonight, so that's part of the reason why I didn't send one out, a link for this. If I had known if that was going to be okay doing this, I probably would have been more inclined to send one. But anyways, it's been one of those nights I just kind of had to take it last few hours, touch and go. So anyways, I hope everyone has a good rest of their Tuesday evening. And it's always a blessing to come on here and talk with you guys. And hope you appreciate it. Let me know how I did. Let me know how I can do better. I am in my studio tonight. But I'm not ready to move out here full-time just yet, but I will be soon. I'm still got to make some upgrades out here before I'm moving back out here full-time. So at any rate, I am going to start doing live shows more regularly in the future. I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to start that, but I only did that. One reason why I did this is because I wasn't feeling well. I didn't really want to render anything out, and I kind of wanted to go live anyway in response. But eventually, I do hope to do one live show maybe a week. Not sure what form that's going to take yet. I want to scale up the number of episodes I do per week to about three, like one day on, one day off, maybe, maybe not quite that frequently, but anyways, 2 episodes a week I want to do that have to do with just regular news, things like that. And then there's 1 episode a week I want to do that's more faith-based. All of that is still down the road, not in the immediate future, but that's on my radar of consideration. So just pray for me. Pray that God gives me wisdom on what to do with this show. And God is the one that gets all the glory in all this. So on that note, I hope everyone has a great evening. And I guess I'll end it here. And I'll catch you guys in the next broadcast. God bless each and every one of you. And have a good evening, everyone.